Delegates from 5 countries gathered at the beautiful Future Africa campus in Pretoria, South Africa for the GCRF AFRICAP End of Program event. Hosted by FANRPAN, the event spanned 2 days and included 3 separate webinars to conclude the 4-year multi-stakeholder program and disseminate the research findings and recommendations.
The challenges that the world faces is huge. Climate change, food security, biodiversity loss. We have to do better at thinking through how we manage to grow the food that we need to grow for people's health, for the environment, and for the economic growth and livelihoods that are necessary. And that was the motivation right at the start.
To address these challenges, the Agricultural and Food System Resilience, Increasing Capacity and Advising Policy Program, AFRICAP, was designed and implemented in the 4 focal countries: Malawi, South Africa, Tanzania, and Zambia. The program aimed to build capacity in prospective systems-level decision-making for resilient agricultural development in sub-Saharan Africa to meet the complex challenges of climate change, the need for equitable economic growth, and the need to feed growing populations nutritiously and sustainably.
AFRICAP has ticked 3 strategic focus areas which FANRPAN has been established to deal with: research and policy analysis. Number 2, capacity strengthening in terms of both individuals and institutions. Our strategic focus area number 3 deals with how then do we attend to policy engagement and influencing through policy advocacy platforms and through other mechanisms that we use to make sure that the research-based evidence that we generate gets used.
3 separate webinars were hosted around these strategic areas. The first dealing with transformational pathways to climate-smart agri-food systems.
This first webinar is going to focus on the foundational research and integrated modelling of climate-smart agri-food systems.
Our results show that climate change may lead to large declines in suitability for staple crops, which means that there may need to be a transition to more heat and drought-resistant crops to ensure food and nutrition security.
I mapped at a country level the supply of key micronutrients, including dietary energy, between 1961 and 2013. Zambia has pretty much been energy and micronutrient deficient from the period 1961 all the way up to 2013.
We found that conservation agriculture improved soil structural properties so that maximum benefits will be achieved whenever conservation agriculture is implemented.
In terms of the effect of conservation agriculture on maize nutrient content, we observed that it didn't affect carbon content at all. There was a significant increase on the grain yield and also on the selenium content that are depicted here in green and also observed in the 2nd-year trial.
In this research, we integrate innovation systems thinking and affordances theory from the social sciences to explore how agriculture innovation happens in the context of 2 climate-smart agriculture interventions in Tanga region of Tanzania.
One of the big achievements of the AFRICAP program was the development of iFeed, the integrated future estimator for emissions and diets. iFeed is a practical online tool that integrates land use, agricultural, climate, and socio-economic models under scenarios of change set by local stakeholders. It also incorporates results from other policy and applied research strands to provide an evidence base for decision makers to plan future food production.
Through the iFeed program, the scientists were able to at least model how the future would look like and create pathways given the different scenarios that each country had. And it means putting the right policies on the ground in terms of irrigation, the right policies in terms of trade and markets. And this is what policymakers are looking at and are looking for correct recommendations for them to make the right decisions.
I think one of the key differences is to focus on nutrition. So many programs previously have talked about possible agricultural policies we could have in terms of how much land we might need, or even what crops we might need to grow. But in particular here with iFeed, we're able to look in great detail at nutrition security. So that's a particularly unique insight. And alongside that, a focus on climate extremes, and then again, how that can impact on year-to-year nutrition security for people.
At the university level, we have a very good opportunity to continue what iFeed has put forward, and students can benefit a lot from already existing platform to guide many other processes into the future.
The robustness of iFeed is what made me use some of the outcomes that have come from iFeed in my own work as a PhD student.
Throughout the AFRICAP program, we have engaged with networks of local, national, regional and international organizations with a stake in sustainable agriculture and food production in sub-Saharan Africa. By sharing evidence developed in our research and modeling with policy and decision makers, we aim to de-risk their decision-making and enable climate-smart and sustainable agricultural development.
In this webinar, our colleagues and partners are going to give an overview of the policy engagement activity that we have been undertaking in AFRICAP.
We have had specific public sector engagements concerning predominantly our two key ministries, the Ministry of Agriculture and the Ministry of Fisheries and Livestock. We have specifically engaged them and supported the work of the review of the National Agricultural Investment Program. AFRICAP had been involved in the providing of both technical and financial support.
So our approach for policy engagement in Tanzania actually started, it's a process from the inception phase to the implementation, and now, when we are finalizing the program, but yet even after the program has been closed, we are hoping to continue the dialogue and engagement.
One of the areas I need to identify, AFRICAP having shaped the agriculture and agro-processing master plan that will be launched recently, we have finalized the document. The last meeting of the minister and the provincial MECs has okayed the document.
So through the project, we supported the government of Malawi through the Department of Disaster Management to institutionalize the implementation of the National Resilience Strategy in Balaga district.
All of this comes together in an overarching aim around how we can support the future proofing of policy given these identified critical uncertainties. How do we make decisions now that are win-win, that enable agriculture to be climate smart and resilient in a future where we don't know quite how things will play out?
Growing research capability has been a vital and consistent component of our work throughout the AFRICAP program, from launching individual fellowships to increasing policymakers' capacity to interpret and integrate academic evidence into their decision-making.
This morning, we will be having a panel that's going to discuss building capacity for agricultural transformation.
Overall, I think it was quite interesting, and the research was very useful and very helpful. I enjoyed my interaction and my stay at Chatham House.
I think the PhD capacity building and the impact of former PhD students is huge. More than anything, just to stress, you saw it yesterday with those 11 short talks, we've built wonderful capacity across some of the people based at the University of Leeds and add to the sort of depth of research insights.
As a flagship output of the study tour, the Moheza Learning Alliance is now established and is now running. So we now have a platform where farmers, CSOs, and different stakeholders come together to discuss issues related to climate change and solve the challenges together.
The program has successfully delivered its major aims of integrating policy-relevant interdisciplinary research and building capacity, both among program partners and among a wider constituency of stakeholders. This has only been possible due to the huge and dedicated efforts of the whole team, their enthusiasm, professionalism, and hard work.
There have been a lot that have been achieved, and as you can see now we are winding up.
this project with a lot to take back and to implement way forward.
I think it's pretty much to ensure that the outputs, the research outputs of the IFEED program get to the relevant stakeholders.
We have built a significant community of workers together across many institutions and many countries and many areas, from the implementers to the researchers. Its legacy will be in the capacity that we have jointly built within our work teams and within our institutions. And its legacy will be within the broader networks that we have brought together and the introductions that we have made to each other. AFRICAP is less of a project, I think, than a mindset. And it's a mindset and a framing with how to deal with these complex systemic problems and how we can jointly work together in a participatory and transdisciplinary way.
We have been talking within small circles and also in plenary to say, this is not the end of the program. We are just entering a new phase, which for me talks about making sure that the good research work that we've produced starts to get used.
To make agriculture sustainable, resilient, and productive, effective policies and practices require robust evidence in the face of uncertainty. GCRF AFRICAP has created an evidence base and cultivated networks of agriculture and food stakeholders who have used the research results and recommendations to underpin country-specific policies in agriculture and food production, to inform food system policy and practice across the region and build climate-resilient food and agriculture systems.